it's reminding us that it's not what someone does that brings about that relationship. It's who they are. Like I came across this kind of when I was I remember my oldest rather, when she was just a baby and I was holding Bella in my arms, and I remember trying to make her laugh, and she wouldn't laugh because she's just a baby, like she's like newborn, right? And I'm trying to interact with her and trying to get her eyes to look at mine, and she's just like a baby, like she's not doing anything, and I kind of had this moment, I think it was in like adoration, where I'm praying before the Blessed Sacrament, and God's not doing anything. He's not winking at me. Appearance is bread, right? But we know it's Jesus' body, blood, soul, and divinity. That's Jesus, the real presence. Mm-hmm. And they came two together in a way of seeing that, like, it's not for what Jesus is doing, it's for who he is, right? And it's not for what my daughter does or I do to make her laugh that bonds us. It's who she is. Mm-hmm. She's my daughter, and she doesn't need to do anything to be my daughter. She is my daughter. Yeah. And so, like, in these moments where we've clung to a lot of things that maybe we've loved about that person, I love when their laugh or their joke telling or their stories that they would tell or the time I get to, that's great and that's awesome. But it again, this reminds us more importantly of that's my dad, or that's my grandfather, that's my uncle, and that hasn't gone away. There might be some things, characteristics, attributes that might not be the same, but that's still the person who I love, and I'm gonna, like you said, regardless of whether they might recognize me, I recognize them.
Yeah, beautifully said. I like that.
Oh, praise God. Well, tell us. So again, the putting the book together and tying this. One of the things that I experienced when I was reading the book, and I had a loved one that went through Alzheimer's, and it was really fast, and it was kind of a curveball for the family. And that was my first time experiencing that. And then I saw it kind of happen with somebody else very close to us. And it's so. But one of the things that you provide, and I love education, awareness is awesome. But if you ever have, like Elise and I, Elise is dealing with cancer right now. And if you ever go on WebMD, when you're trying to find answers, it can be very scary because you can find all the worst case scenarios, and then you're just like, oh my goodness, But what this provides is practical things and I want you to talk about this, practical things that we're all dealing with, let's say in maybe that situation. It was questions, feelings, confusion, but you provide with it the rosary that allows us that, as it says in the title, the peace to be able to understand and to take each moment one day at a time. So can you speak on that?
Yeah. So if you step back and you look at the rosary, you have, look at the decades, you have joyful and sorrowful, glorious, luminous, and it's sort of just like the journey of dementia. Mm-hmm. There can still be joy. Yeah. There's certainly enough sorrow to go around. And the glory is, when someone does pass, and they are called home to God, and they're free of their illness and any uncomfortableness, and the care partner's there to still there to kind of deal with their feelings and what they did and what they didn't do. Mm-hmm. But the practical, and let me know if I'm answering your question.
Yeah, please.
But the practical nature, I tried to take the 20 most practical or most common things, most important tips that I could give a caregiver, and that's my experience from the university, but experience, but also more so from being a caregiver support group leader. Mm-hmm. I still say caregiver sometimes. Taking those and saying, like, these are like the 20 most common things that you're gonna come in contact with,
right.
And these are things to suggest that I suggest that you look at, mm-hmm. and here are some additional resources, but also look at what Mary went through.
Yeah.
Look at what Jesus went through. I mean, Mary's Our Lady of Sorrows. She was there at the foot of the cross. Yeah. And I don't know if it gets any more sorrowful than that to see your child not just die, but also suffer. Yeah. But as we see in the end, love wins.
That's right.
The Lord wins, and here we are today. But so drawing upon the practical, but also the such important scenes from the Rosary and from the life of Jesus and from Mary, or hope to make an impact.
So each Rosary. So what you did in the book was you took the decade, but before each decade, you provide some educational information about maybe the experience that someone has is dealing with, tying it to the decade, and then providing a special little prayer intention. Mm-hmm. So like I guess my point is that like you do a beautiful job of providing, I think, the necessary information that someone would be, I'm sure, concerned about looking to learn and to know, and then wording it in a particular prayer that allows like when you say those prayers, like becoming your own prayer mm-hmm. with that, and then again allowing the faith to help you see the bigger picture. Because that's something that, whenever anybody struggles with any kind of an illness, and I'm using my experience with Elise going through cancer, this is stage 4. It's very overwhelming. There's a lot of things that are uncertain and whatever, but it's one day at a time. And the only way that I can get through anything is going to be by the grace of God, and the power of us being able to come together in prayer and allowing those intentions to be said and to be prayed with Our Lady. But then tie into the point that you make in the book, education, intention, but also the aspect of community.
Yeah. So I thought community was really important, because we can read books and we can put this knowledge into practice, and that's going to be great. But it's really as a community, our family, our church parishes, and even beyond, that we can, that I think we can kind of walk on this journey together, because we all have our individual journeys, our family journeys, and then overall our community. And so in this case, the community is, of course, the church parish, mm-hmm. Where I would really like to see, I call them dementia-friendly parishes in the book. And I didn't coin that term. There's dementia-friendly restaurants and businesses and et cetera. So this is putting that label before parishes, meaning like let's include them. Let's go out of our way to make sure that they're welcome and that we're offering advice on this journey. And then the overall, a larger community is, that's where the website and the YouTube lives come in, and things like that, where we can get, and the prayer wall that we have on the website. So people can go to the website, dementiarosary.com, put in an email address, put in a prayer, disclose as much as or little as they want, and then there it's for the world to see and to click on after they pray for that person. And
you'll get a person who puts a prayer intention on the wall. You have other people or yourself responding to that person, letting them know that they have been prayed for.
Yes.
That's beautiful. So again, coming together, the community, and that's the reason why I point out the community part, is that one of the things, looking back on my experience with Elise going through the cancer for the past 5.5 years, we've never felt alone. I can't imagine what it would be like trying to do this alone. Mm-hmm. And I'm not just talking like, we've got our doctors, but like having your doctors, but also having friends and family and a support group, and our church parish and many church parishes that have just opened their arms wide to us, to support us and to help us. So having that knowledge that we're not alone in this has been huge for us. So I love how you bring that put a spotlight on that point. And I hope, man, every parish takes on the challenge of like, okay, how are we responding to this? Because like you said in the book, like 50 million Americans struggle with dementia. I mean, that's a large number of the population.
Oh, that's worldwide. So
worldwide, okay.
It's still a lot. It's like 5.7 million in the United States.
So there's, and even within our area, you can show the parish, the church parish, the pastor that like, hey, we have people in our community, and we have people, and what an opportunity too, in many ways, to evangelize, because you've got people, parents, or let's say sons and daughters, who are maybe trying to take care of their children, their parents, and looking for a place to go, and what better place to find a home to help them deal with their struggles and the crosses that they're dealing with, but in the church parish. Mm-hmm. And then tying that again back to the fact that, like, again, the faith is helps us to see the bigger picture, that you're not alone, that God is with you each day and every day, and that in the, like, there's a bigger picture, like this isn't the end all be all. That no matter how dark the night is, the light is brighter. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell us your experience with the book, with others maybe responding to the book, families that you have maybe that have stood out in any situations that's come to mind.
Well, I'll tell you what. When I was writing the book, I'm thinking to myself, "Wow, this is a lot of good information in one book." But I was not prepared for the feedback and the gifts that would come back to me.
Wow.
I mean, the testimonials, the stories, the people telling me how much the book has meant to them has been overwhelming, and increased my faith that was already, on an upward trajectory.
Yeah.
It's just been remarkable. The number of people that I talk to, and I hope that if I was in I walk away from these conversations thinking, if I was ever in their situation being a care partner, I would hope that I have half the grace that they do.
Wow.
It's just inspirational. And I'll give you an example. So in one of my support groups, there's a gentleman who's taking care of his wife of over 57 years. Wow. And he's had a very difficult time. And he's gone to adoration. He's always goes to mass, and he sees this as a fulfillment of his wedding vows.
Yes. Yes.
Would he put himself in the situation like to test himself?
Right.
He would not do that.
Right.
He shouldn't. But he is responding in such a way that this is what is keeping him going. It's like, this is my bride, and this is what I said I would do in sickness and in health. So he just takes the best care of her, and she's not always appreciative because she doesn't know who he is sometimes. Yeah. And I just can't imagine how hard that is, but it's his faith in God and continuing to go to adoration that gets him through everything.
Praise God. I mean, that's what love is. I mean, we think of love so much in the romanticized love that we see like in Hollywood and things like that, but love calls us to go deeper. And that fruitfulness in love is something rich and enduring. It's beautiful. And it's not something that necessarily, I mean, yes, we have the honeymoon phase and things like that, but we're not meant to live in the honeymoon. We're meant to allow that love by the grace of God to mature and to grow. And you see, Fulton Sheen, he said, there's going to be obstacles and challenges, right? That's we're going to encounter in life. But he says we should not see the obstacle as a roadblock on our way to happiness, but rather a ladder which brings us to the height of love itself. So that whatever challenge comes, because of what Christ did on the cross, and he rewrote the book on suffering, and when we unite our suffering to his, it becomes redemptive. This allows us to share in a real way the love of Christ into the life of another, and fulfilling of the vows that we would said in good times and in health, in sickness and health, in good times and bad, that no matter what, that we were going to will the good of the other. We were going to love this person. And that love, that challenge in life comes in many different ways, but how will we respond? In the grace of God, we'll be able to rise above that. So talk about that, so suffering, right? Sacrifices. How is that, how does that awareness through everything that you've been researching and seeing witnesses of great people, where do you see, or how have you seen that love grow and mature?
Watching them, they're an example for me in my marriage. Let me know if I'm answering your questions. Yeah. I mean, they're an inspiration as far as, what they'll do for their spouse. And I see how this is a ladder for them. I haven't heard that. I like that quote. I haven't heard about that. These are ladders. These are growing people out of their comfort zone. Yeah. And that's how we should take these things as opportunities to grow as a person, to grow as a spouse, to grow as a child, taking care of their adult life. Absent of these sufferings and these challenges would, to me, be very bland, and we would not grow.
Well, that's the tendency, right? To want to run away from these challenges.
It is, yeah.
So you have a quote that you brought, and again, whenever things get difficult, there is a tendency that we want to fly away from it. We want to run as far as we can away from it because we're afraid we can't do it. I don't have what it takes. This is too hard. I didn't sign up for this. This is very challenging, and I'm at my breaking point, and I'm overwhelmed. Yeah. I want to get out of this. That's a temptation that people have when they come across these challenges. But what are we being called to?
Yeah, we're called to love. This is from Pope Benedict XVI. We can try to limit suffering, to fight against it, but we cannot eliminate it. It's when we attempt to avoid suffering by withdrawing from anything that might involve hurt, when we try to spare ourselves the effort and the pain of pursuing truth, love, and goodness, that we drift into a life of emptiness in which there may be almost no pain, but the dark sensation of meaninglessness and abandonment is all the greater. It's not by sidestepping or fleeing the suffering that we are healed, but rather by our capacity for accepting it, maturing through it, and finding meaning through union with Christ, who suffered with infinite love.
It's beautiful. I mean, I think of the paradox that if you want to find yourself, you lose yourself, right? Anyone who seeks to save his life will lose it, but anyone who wishes to lose his life will find it. Mm-hmm. And that's precisely the challenge that we have in these relationships, where when things do get challenging, they're not something that is that, like we mentioned before, this roadblock, but it's actually the path that God is allowing us to walk through, that's actually going to mature the love that we're called to. And we find meaning, we find hope, and we find purpose in our Lord through the suffering. I love everything that you've done and everything that you've been doing, and I pray for all the work that you're doing, and hope great success with the book and the work that you're doing for families, to helping them to find resources and helping them to find direction especially in the Rosary, to find meaning and understanding in their struggle, and to find that peace.
Thank you.
Where can people find more information about all the work that you're doing?
So the best one-stop resource is going to be dementiarosary.com. Mm-hmm. And then from there, so I have a weekly newsletter or blog that you can see on there. You can sign up for email updates to get that to your inbox. I have the podcast, although it's not around the Rosary. I'm going to start having some interviews and hopefully a podcast dedicated to the book. We're starting YouTube lives once a month where we're going to say a rosary. It'll be an hour long, so we'll do a rosary 20 minutes, and then go into some dementia Q&A for people to, part of that community is building people, bringing people to the rosary, bringing them to the book, and to pray with other care partners or even people living with dementia. So Facebook's on there, so the DementiaRosary.com is the best place to find all these different resources.
Well, again, thank you for your time. Thank you for the work that you're doing, and may God continue to bless all that you're doing.
Thank you. God bless.